Welcome to the Fountain of Vitality podcast. I'm your host, Lamont Levitt. In a world overflowing with noise, confusion, and distraction, we're here to cut through the clutter and explore bold, unique paths to a longer, healthier, and more vibrant life. Through candid conversations with business leaders, wellness experts, industry pioneers, and innovators, we'll uncover insights to help you discover your own personalized, unique approach to thriving. Tune in, trust the compass of wisdom within, and find your fountain of vitality. Hello, this is Lamont Levitt with the Fountain of Vitality podcast, and today we have with us David Gilliland with the Elite Entrepreneurs, and he's got some great stories to share with us today. Looking forward to hearing from him. David, thank you for joining us today.
Delighted to be on the show. Thanks so much for having me.
Love to hear some of your stories about how you can really free up yourself as an entrepreneur and how you lead others in that process too. It's not just standing on your own, but being a good leader through new innovative ideas.
Well, Lamont, you know how it is running a business. I mean, it can gobble up all of your time and attention. It always wants more time.
Yeah, for sure.
And freedom isn't just about the time, but I think that's part of it. I was working with a good friend of mine. I remember when I first met him, he tried to have balance in life. And so, he worked 12 to 14-hour days, but he would take Sundays off because he was a very religious man. And so he'd only work 8 hours on Sundays.
Okay.
It's amazing how much time it takes to really grow a business. It took him a while to free himself up, but he realized at that point, he's like, I'm doing the business thing and I may be fulfilling some kind of civic or religious duties, but I'm missing out on my family.
Yeah.
And I'm missing out on life. And he had no metrics that were helping him say, was he succeeding? It was, anyway, interesting to watch. It was fun to watch the transition over the next few years when he got to this other stage where he was working, well, he loved to work, but he was no longer working Sundays. He was no longer working Saturdays. He still worked longer days, but he was taking 12 weeks of blackout vacation a year by the end. And the business was running itself. I mean, they were adding new features to the products. They were adding major clients in, solving huge issues without him ever touching it. And he ended up selling his business on a 15x revenue. That's not a bad place to be because It no longer needed him. Well, before he was the linchpin for everything.
Yeah.
He solved every problem. And so he was the bottleneck for all movement in that business. That's why he got to the place he got to. But he changed. And I just sit in amazement looking at him and so many others who have chosen to let go of one way of looking at it and moved into a way to say, how can I lead powerfully in my life and then for my team so we can all be more free to really add value in life, right? And end our business. His business didn't suffer. You heard, his business went way up in valuation doing this work. It's just, he also got a life back.
Yeah. It's so important. I mean, you're excited to tackle a new project. It's so hard not to get yourself too crazy into it to where you lose sight of why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
My dad used to joke that he only worked half days. It was just 12 hours.
Yeah, that's right. That's about where he was.
Anyway, love to hear part of your journey too in freeing up yourself to do what you want to do in life. And love to, if you'd share some of your personal things you did, how you took off internationally, ran your business, gave your kids a wonderful experience, and at the same time kept moving the ball forward with the things which are less important. You had a means to an end, which is your family was first.
Yeah, well, it's not something that we do alone or that we take lightly. But when I think about freeing ourselves up, if you're okay, Lamont, I'd like to step back just a little bit and say, we don't actually have to get out of our business and away from it to be more free. Some of us love the business, but wouldn't it be great to be free to work on the parts of the business we most love?
Yeah.
right? Or do the stuff that adds the most value. Or others of us, there may be listeners you have that aren't business owners. They're like, I don't have the ability to just disappear and go somewhere. I work for someone else and I like it. Well, there's a way to be more free, even in the work you do day to day in the roles where you're at. And as you free yourself up, you allow yourself to grow, to progress, to take on new responsibilities. But only once we kind of get to that point. So, hopefully this freeing up yourself isn't just if you're the business owner and if it's the type of business that you could build that way, which I think all businesses can be built that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, for me and my business, I actually started with my wife. She and I talked about what were the highest and most meaningful things in life to us. What did we care about beyond anything else, beyond the bills, beyond the house, beyond the neighborhood, beyond the trips? Like what did we care about more than anything else? And we had to get really clear about that. And that took some time and some talking.
Yeah.
And that talking is a wonderful thing to do with people you love and people that are close to you. And so even if it's just in your business, if you have a partner or you have some team members that are just really key, to really discover that matters, because when we're serving something beyond just my immediate need, my dollar need today, when we're like, we have an ideal that's higher than ourselves that we're willing to sacrifice for, it's actually incredibly freeing to be subject to something well beyond yourself. I know that sounds weird. It's like, these are counter ideas, aren't they? Like, what are you talking about? Free to be subject to? I mean, really, it actually is. It's very freeing to say, here's something that's so big, it's so all-encompassing that if I had extra time, I would put it there gladly, because it gives me energy. It's as though it's like who I am. I'm expressing the best self through that. And so we took the time to really discuss that and dive into it. Just as, I've done hundreds of businesses and business owners and their teams. It's just like, what's my purpose beyond customer satisfaction? I'm not talking about your customer value proposition. I'm talking about 3 steps above that.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to get to that. That matters in a business. I care about the customer value proposition, but I care about something even more than that. And I need to know that, or I become a slave to the moving target of customer value proposition.
That's true. People get hung up on that.
We become a slave to it. Now, we've got to serve that in the end. Sure, we've got to stay relevant. I need the revenues and I need the profits. But if I don't have something beyond that, then I'm so affected by every customer and their bouncing and their finickiness or whatever, or my mismatch, that I'm afraid and I hold on to it. So when the markets are shifting, I act out of a place of fear, and it's like I'm in prison.
That's true. That's true.
And so if I can say, wait, what I care most about, and like for me and my wife, we have an ideal that's actually very much religiously tied to several of our values in there. To us, there's this feeling and a belief that everyone in the world is part of one family, God's family, right? That's important to us.
Okay.
And so the highest ideal, the thing we work towards above everything else, is to gather all of his family to him. Help everyone feel his love, feel welcomed in his home. So to us, that matters more than anything. All right. So that's not everyone else's family. Everyone's going to have something different. Yeah. My business actually is something lower than that for my company, right? My team. But it's part of that.
It can lead to that. It can lead to that higher.
It leads to it. So for my business, it's to help others realize their potential. So you think that higher, like God's family. So what's the potential? Pretty limitless, right?
Right.
We're like offspring of who? Someone who's limitless. So we're trying to help everyone see this limitless potential.
Yeah. Yeah. As a business owner, it's so hard. I mean, we so often get involved in, pricing and features and what does the customer want, and that journey that you're you're on. And you're right. You do get to where you're a slave to that versus what are you really doing all this for?
Yeah. And there's a second piece that goes with it. So there's this like, what am I doing it all for? And then the other piece is, and who do I want to be while I'm achieving that? Do the ends justify the means?
Means, yeah.
Or do the means belong in alignment with that end? And we would say, when we're in alignment on that, again, you're free. Think about, I just thought about several instances where I went against one of my core values, right? You know, that sick feeling in your gut.
Yeah.
You remember, and you're like, okay, I thought that was the right thing to do for the business, and that was the wrong thing for me to do for who I am. And you go back and you're like, you're apologizing, and you're telling people, you're like, I could never do that again. I feel so sick to my stomach. We will not do business like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's get clear what those are too. Now just imagine. So, I mean, we've been talking family, we're talking business. In my family side, we had this value, one family. And I live in a community where we're pretty homogeneous. I mean, it's a pretty, like a lot of people look and act the same a lot of ways. In the little valley I live in, there's some mixed cultures in there, but not too much. And there's a prevailing thought pattern sometimes, or two different sides, like it's this way, it's that way. Neither of those actually align with the vision that my family has, which is one family, all welcome, right? Bring the family back together. And how do we work like that better? And so one of the things on our list is we looked at this far off their dream. We set some goals and said, okay, well, in the next 5 years, we want to give our children the following experiences to help them see the world differently so they can hold on to and receive these values we're trying to teach and care about this purpose we care about, kind of be a part of it, right? And one of those was for them to see different people in the world in a way that they would come to value and love them instead of pity or judge them. And so instead of like the typical vacation where you go and you have your fun and, you know, it's all sort of a manicured, experience, we dropped our family for the first adventure. We just dropped them in the middle of the rainforest. I bought a ticket and all of us flew there. We got a hotel, which was not a great hotel in the middle of the rainforest where it was a tiny town. And we went hunting for a house. And in the next couple of days, we found a house that we moved into and had to begin furnishing and figuring out how we were going to live for the next 6 months was the plan. And so the kids got dropped in there. A few of them had studied a little Portuguese. Others didn't know a lick of it. And off we went. And we took all of our kids with us at the time. We only had 8 kids. And so we dropped all 8 of us into the rainforest and began an adventure. And what they found out was within the first handful of days, people from all over were coming to help this family of strangers, foreigners, to figure out how are they going to live in this. First night we got the house, we had people there helping us hang hooks on the walls so we could have hammocks so the kids could sleep, not on the floor. Right? And they were there, and people, like, we just asked. We just went there. We showed up. And what my kids experienced was something they don't experience here. They walked in, and a community opened their arms up and were like, whoa, welcome. How can we help you? And they jumped in and were helping and sacrificing for a family they didn't even know. Each one of those individuals who was there on that first night became lifelong friends. We're still in touch with them.
For sure. Yeah.
Just did a visit with them. They've moved to other places even, and we've found them and gone and visited, spent time with, just shared love and stories, break bread together, and so much more. As my girls, all 8 were girls. All my girls got to see a new way of loving and caring for others, and
that's great.
And how happy these people were who had nothing.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't materials that made any difference for them. We walked into their homes, we ate meals with them, and they had next to nothing. What they were living on was so little, and yet their joy was there. So it's like, why do we keep pursuing stuff to find joy? Apparently it's found some other way. And it was wonderful to let the kids experience that and do that. We've done some trips like that over time, but that's part of the trips would be stressful, except they were serving. Well, they were stressful anyway, but they were serving the purpose and they were in line with the values. The whole reason we did it was to teach and help our kids have these stretching experiences, doing something hard to serve a purpose that was greater than themselves.
What's great is they can find joy in not stuff.
Right.
Too often times they associate their happiness with, all the things that they want to get the next phone or the next computer or the next tech gadget. And that's not a key to happiness. That's a very short-term hit.
Yeah. You get a dopamine hit when you get it. And it, in a matter of months, days, weeks, whatever, some short period of time, become one more thing you have to maintain or find a space for.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring joy anymore. The joy is gone. Right. And so this is actually not much different from our team members. Think about your business.
Right.
How much joy do they really receive? Let's pretend you're paying them well enough to cover their bills. Okay. So they're not suffering to make rent. They're not suffering to put food on the table. Every raise above that is nothing more than a scorecard that they're making some more money, maybe putting some aside, maybe spending it on more stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not having drastic impact anymore. So once your team is making above, let's say, for across most of America, if they're making above 70,000, they're making ends meet. And so,
depending on where they live, but yeah.
Some areas it's going to be over 110,000, and that's fine. Your area. But then the money is just a scorecard, and they're not that excited about making you more money. Most of them aren't that thrilled about just making themselves that much more money. They think they are, but then they make more and they're already dissatisfied.
Right.
I don't think we shouldn't pay them more. I want to pay them everything they're worth, and I want to make that fun. And it can be, right? It can be great, but it has more meaning if we tie it to something great. So, for instance, this one company that I shared the story at the beginning, they were just playing the numbers game, and that was fun for the owner, and the others were fine working along, and they were loyal and trying to be dedicated. But when we got a purpose, it really tied down, and they just did software. But the software was for a certain industry. It's for a hospice industry. And then when they started instead to talk about, what we really do is we make it easier for hospice workers to take care of all of that administrative garbage that's required by the government and others, all the stuff they have to record. We can get that done in a fraction of the time for them. And now they have more time to give that personal touch to the people they're caring for. So their purpose became to give dignity to end-of-life care. Yeah. And they wanted to do that, and they had a big number of how many they were going to create. And they knew, because their software tracked how many patients. They wanted to make sure that they got that, and they had a big number out there. Let's go provide it. I can't remember the number right now. It's like, however many thousands and thousands of people would receive this, that they would have dignity in end-of-life care, that they would have this time, they'd be treated like a person. They would get to have this one-on-one connection with their provider because the provider's admin tasks were taken off their plate.
Yeah.
And on the login screen of the team showed their counting number. And everybody knew what they had to do this quarter, what they had to do next quarter. And when they got together, what did they talk about? They actually talked about stories like, my grandma when she was in hospice. You should have seen the way they cared for her. Oh, I loved it. It was beautiful. The way we do that for them.
It became their driving purpose.
That's right.
Reason to do what they're doing. And that brought them that joy.
That's right. That joy lasts. That's not a hang it on the wall and forget it. That's something that means something. Well, what we started to find, we're now one of the, there's more work to do, but part of this freeing is Now, instead of just, I've just got to do my tasks the way they're saying, I see what we're after, and I know what I need to do to help us move that forward. And they started to be creative. What can I do from my role to make that happen? And the moment someone starts creating, they're free.
Yeah, that's true.
When we're responding, we're in prison. When we start creating, we're free. And you see it happening, even though they're putting more time. When they're taking the shower, what are they doing? They're solving your business problems, because they're not your business problems. They're their issues that they care most about, to help more people receive dignity in this end-of-life care, for that example, right? Or in my case, to help one more person realize their potential.
I think leaders of teams or employees, or however you want to word it, if they can really empower their people to do what you just said, be creative and solving problems to helping others, it opens up great things that can happen. It may not happen just exactly like you want them to happen, but it's a better product in the end if you allow your people, if they're appropriately driven, to succeed.
And like with our family and with businesses, it's not like we can just say, hey, there's the dream. Keep thinking about the dream.
Yeah.
You got to do that, but you also need to organize some things. Like my wife and I have those 5-year plans. What were the specific things we would need to do and accomplish during this time? And what situations would we need to give, or opportunities would we need to give each of our kids in that growth process, right? Some of the things came up along the way. We were roughly outlined, and then the specifics come as you get closer. But that's important, is to kind of see what's our next step in the next year, next 2 year, next 3 years, or next quarter. Am I thinking beyond how am I going to make it through this week? Because if I'm not, next week is going to be the same as this week. And the week after that's going to be the same.
Right.
We're just going to keep responding.
Right.
We're going to react to the world that's already been created for us by the culture we're in, instead of create the world that we want, that serves the purpose we care about. And that's the difference of freedom.
Okay. So David, how do you, in your experience, how have you taken companies from reactionary mode to that next level of beyond just that next week?
Yeah.
Let's
say the vision's there, right? And let's say we've got some kind of crazy big mission, for your business, maybe it's however many, we're going to help 1 million doctors process their claims more accurately and faster or something, right? Whatever it is, right? You've got some big thing out there. Terrific. If the team cares about it, that's all that matters. Then you need to have some set times. So we divide out and we say, there's operational things we've got to coordinate, and that's so important. And we already do that. But there's also strategic stuff where we're being intentional about who we have to become 6 months from now in order to win, which is different than how many sales I have to make, right? It's like new strengths that I need to leverage or build that I haven't had before. Taking advantage of new opportunities, or defending against some different threats, and really crossing past those and taking off. We have to be intentional about that planning. And the key is to not do it alone. And so we start doing some strategic planning with other members of your team. Remember, I don't want to just free up the business owner. I want to free up them and their team members.
Yeah.
And so we bring in those key team members. And if they're a small enough team, it's the whole team. If it's a bigger team, then there's a little process to get the input of everybody on the team in thinking about how are we going to become something so much more than we are today. We're not going to just let it happen and hope the market serves us well. We're going to go after it. We're going to build stuff, right? So we get very, very clear of this is the priority for this quarter. And everybody knows, I don't care what fires you think you have to put out. This is the number one priority. We solve this problem because this problem will make all the difference 6 months from now, or 3 months from now, or a year from now. This is the one we have to win in. And so we go and we build that. That may be adding talent in. That may be changing a process. It may be integrating a certain software. It might be building a certain partnership. Whatever the thing is that's going to help move us the most, that we went through a whole strategic planning process. Everyone got on the same page in the end. They're like, yes, this is the one. Now we focus and we go and we get it done. And it's not just the executives doing it. We have certain team members across that company, the ones who are getting their job done. We love them. and we want to give them a chance to grow, those are the ones that get to participate in that strategic priority. And everyone else helps carry the load. While they're taking an extra 3 hours of time that week, others are stepping it up here. We're not dropping a ball on operations. We're still doing it. But everybody knows the sacrifice is to build this, which is going to be a key for us to grow and to advance. And so that's some of the ways we say, how do we start freeing them up? Well, we give them that big why, and then we start teaching them how they can participate in the building, in the working on the business, instead of just showing up and clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah, that frees them up.
It does.
And to be creative and really enjoy the whole process.
And the moment you see those 4 or 5 on that little, I call them, just a smart team or a priority team, those 4 or 5 who are on that do a great job, you've just freed them up. Every one of those are now your targets for your next leaders, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
And then the other people over here, we're helping them do better and better. There's other processes to ensure every single week, every individual in your business has somebody championing their individual progress to become the person you need them to be 6 months from now, every week working on that. And those who are not choosing to work on it, you want to help them find another place where they'll succeed and flourish. Your place isn't the place for them. That's okay. Let's get someone who wants to flourish. Every person is becoming the person you need them to be for you to advance. And then all of the priorities, strengths, projects, systems that need to be built, change, whatever, are being built to meet with those great people. And you'll just see growth happening. And the more everyone else is carrying it on their shoulders, the less it's on yours. That's freedom.
So the concept of freedom, a lot of employees, I think, want to adopt that, to be creative and come up with a new way of doing things. Sometimes you have team players that maybe you're afraid of the change of, introducing that whole concept. How you dealt with the outliers that can't seem to get on board.
Can't seem to get on board. If I can't get them on board with the vision, remember, the litmus test is, are they willing to sacrifice for the vision? Sacrifice their comfort, the ease, the whatever. Do they care enough about that they brag about it at their family reunion? If they don't, we don't have the right vision, or we don't have the right person in there.
It says it could be, it's not just a seat on the bus issue. It's they're not supposed to be on the bus.
Maybe they don't belong on the bus. And I want you to know that some of those people are some of the best people in the world still.
Right.
This doesn't diminish them. It's just that your vision isn't theirs. And the one collectively that everyone cared about, they actually care about something very different. And I've had executive team members, owners, I've seen ownership split over this and say, it's time for us to divide ways. Yes, it is, right? And most of the time pretty amicably, because they see and they understand and they help each other succeed in those next steps. And now you've got friends all over the place, love what you're doing. It's not what they want to do, but they love what you're doing too. You've got great advocates. You've got all sorts of great things. On occasion, it's a little more poisonous, that division.
Yeah.
And then move them out still respectfully. You don't have to demonize them just because they weren't ready to embrace another greater step for them.
Yeah.
I've seen ownership moved out that were very upset with the way it went, but that's more rare if the process has been done well in discovering what everyone cares about, right? You help them pursue what they care about instead of just holding on to power. That's not worth anything.
Yeah, that EOS model, it kind of introduces that your vision has got to be in alignment. Then the executives got to be in alignment with, your core values. All that has to be in alignment. And a lot of times when companies start out, they're all excited to solve a certain problem, and they don't even start with that. And so then they have to come back to that years later to sort that out. And not having that solved actually holds the company back, and they don't realize it.
And the EOS model, just to clarify a little bit for people who know that model well, it hits about to the level of like a mission goal. How big do we want to be?
Right.
But it doesn't pull at the high aspiration of what's the impact in the world I want to have.
No, it
just doesn't. And so it is a great management system and should be utilized.
Right.
There's a visionary leadership system that needs to overlay that if you want to free people, because EOS is meant to hold people in line.
In alignment.
There's one person that's free on that. That's the business owner, but only to a point. right? Once they max out their capability, if they haven't built their team to carry it all with and for them and love it and drive it, they're still the linchpin.
Yeah.
So it's a management system, a very good one. But this freeing, that's a leadership system. It's another level. So yeah, great questions.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That makes a lot of sense. Can you give me an example of a company or two that you've actually seen go through this process of recognizing at a visionary level who they really are and how it just catapulted them to the next level?
Yeah, and there's more work than that. That's the first step. That's the foundation. You still have to build the whole empire on it, but
yeah,
that's a foundation. Another company, they are a professional services business, actually just in a smaller capital city here in the West, in Salt Lake. And they were for about 20 years, $700,000 to $1 million business, right? Kind of that typical. You see a ton of business at that size, right? It's kind of bouncing against that ceiling, bouncing back, bouncing. And they began this work. And it took a little bit. And some people are like rolling their eyes. Oh, this is just a bunch of garbage, right? Whatever. I don't believe in this. Right? This is hokey pokey, mushy stuff. Well, let the hokey pokey, mushy stuff work for just a little bit. And they began to grow. And they started to see this traction. And they had the leadership aligned instead of everyone just serving clients, because they were heavily focused on serving customers. But they weren't very focused on building the business that would allow them to serve more customers. Okay. And so when they got their vision, and their vision really, I mean, they thought business was just honorable. They loved business. Business in and of itself was a good value. Honest business is a great thing that makes all the difference in community, they believe, right? So that was up there. And they wanted to see so many businesses get there. And they would call them these flag plants of this work to help. They would come in and solve a problem, a business problem, through their solution. Not just give the solution, but like it really helped the businesses put a stake in the ground and make progress forward. And they cared about that. Great. So they focused, like, we want to do 300 of these flag plants, solve a problem, put it in the mountain, right? We're going to care about this. And they began caring, and they began working on it. And they had a job to build a leadership team instead of just have the same old owner always running things. They're like, let's get a leadership team that they'll all lift. So they went and built that leadership team in, and then we began to do the work of this strategy work that I talked about, and this co-creating, and then the clarity of how that rolls out, and the accountability for each group and where they're supposed to be, and the values, really talking about them every time they had a meeting. This is what we care about. This is what we care about, right? And they began to grow, and then they hit another ceiling. And we had to get the owner to learn to let go of. So this is a new owner now. Well, new CEO. Ownership hadn't changed over yet, but a new CEO. And the new CEO was still kind of had his favorite department, right? And he was still very involved in sales. He was great at it. But we had to get him to transition and learn to let go of this burden of being the best salesperson, which he didn't think it was a burden. It was his high. It was his dope.
Yeah, it was his hobby.
Yeah, and he loved it, right? It's like, you're holding your business back. You have to let the others grow and lead. Quit being the leader there. You're keeping them from becoming. So he promoted some other people into there, and he stepped back and started to coach them. Well, they are now 50 million. So 20 years stuck at $1 million or under.
And they're 50.
The next 10 years, 50 million. Okay, so that's some serious growth. And the kind of freedom, I mean, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
It is not needed. So original owner out, sold, happy as can be, delighted, still watching, still has a piece, has some upside that keeps paying him and he loves it. Next owner going, and he doesn't have to be at the office at all. He goes in there to help build certain things. He just builds leaders now.
That's awesome.
That's freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And spending your time the most important stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. And then others delegate and elevate kind of thing.
Yep. And now he spends time with his family as he wants to and needs to. He spends time helping others and mentoring them. He does what he wants to, and he loves to put more time in his business and figure out the next thing. And so he's doing it, right? And it's paying off. I would say that's a decent return, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can move up that path just by getting clear.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's this kind of freedom. That's the kind of freedom we're talking about. And, you know, he has many, 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 many employees who are above that 100,000 range. And in an area of the world that doesn't cost that much to live in. And so are living a life where they don't feel the pressures of, trying to paycheck kind of stuff.
That's great. So in that growth period, and they're reaching for the freedom, as things happen, sometimes pivots are required. What are some things you've seen to have the freedom? How do you also pivot when appropriate? In that process of freedom.
Yeah, I don't advocate that freedom comes by perfect processes, that we just have it nailed and everything's like a robotic clockwork thing. That's nice where it fits, but that is the right thing to do in operations. Go get her done, follow the pattern, move solid. But that quarterly, every 3 months, and that's if the industry isn't moving like crazy. I've had another client where it's every 2 months, because we're just moving so fast. They were a SaaS product. They just moved so fast, right? Everything was always shifting around them. They would every 2 months, but typical businesses every 3 months or every 4 months, a trimester style, that you pull away a day or two. You look at the whole picture, at every meeting, every time you're talking about your vision, but this time we're looking at the vision, measuring against it. How are we doing? How's the market shifted too? Coming down into mission and then mission goals. Mission's meaningful. Mission goals are material. That's where like an EOS or management system works. We also have our own management system, but you take those metrics and things. You start saying, are they lining up the way they need to? How's our strategy on our customers? We've claimed these customers. How tight is this? Has the market moved? Do we need to shift? And so taking your team through a process of understanding the market and where it's moving to and how we need to adjust to it, every quarter you should be looking at that. And people are like, what are you talking about? I sell boots. It doesn't change that much. I don't care. Every quarter you should be looking at what is happening. Where should we be going? If your mission is strong enough and inspiring enough and hard enough to reach, it's not just business as normal to get us there. It's going to take some stretching. And so pivots are happening whenever they're appropriate. Some businesses may not have to pivot very much at all for years. Others may have to pivot pretty fast. I'm watching IT services right now. They're pivoting all over the place right now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because a lot of things they did, we're solving with AI pretty quickly. We used to have to pay for $100,000 integration, and now I got a little bot doing it for me for nothing.
Right.
So there's all sorts of pivoting going on there that would require faster pivoting right now.
I'd love to have you share with me some of the strengths of your system with management to make this process happen and garner this freedom. If you would mind taking a few minutes and talking about what your program is and how it works and where people can find out about what you're doing to make this all happen.
Well, delighted to share a little. Hopefully it's come across. What we look at is how do we help people solve for this problem, which is how do I get my team to think and act like business owners? How do I tap into the minds and hearts of my team so they'll sacrifice for the greater good that we're trying to create? So, how do I be a visionary leader if I'm not?
Right.
What if I'm an introvert who doesn't want to talk with anyone and I would rather just sit there and type away or take care of my little things quietly in the corner? And really, leadership is something that can be learned. And so we have a visionary leadership system. How do you do this? So take EOS. EOS is an operator's manual. That's what it is. It is the integrator. Is that what they call it? Integrator?
Yeah.
It's the integrator's manual. That's what it is. It's all integrator manual. That's what that thing is through. It's for doing operations. Your COO should look at it.
Yeah.
Then you've got this other side of like, how do I inspire people? And how do I do that on the regular? And how do I keep that alive for them so that they become their best selves? Because people have more to give than what the org chart demands of them. So how do we do this? And so we have this system that's set up, and we know that business owners, they want a predictable thing. So in these time periods, you're going to be able to build out X, Y, and Z that will help you get to the end goal. But as business owners, we also don't like, to be told what we have to do. We like our freedom. We like to do it our way. And so we build in a few things to get them to change. We have peer pressure in there. They don't want to look bad to another business owner. And so they report what they're working on to this core group of really tight business owners. Their little mastermind is a piece of the solution. Then there's these trainings that are there to help them and their team learn how to lead and how to do specific things. So organize and lead. We'll teach them how to organize and how to lead on a daily. It's not that hard. They can follow through, and anybody can be a great leader, and anybody can organize a business. But there are certain plateaus, and so we specifically deal with plateaus at about $1 million to 2 million. Think 7 to 12 people. There's a plateau there. You got to change the way you're doing it, or you'll get stuck. And right around 3 to 5 million, right? You've got 25, 35 people. There's another plateau. You probably felt it. Right?
Yeah.
You start hitting, you're like, whoa, I know.
You get stuck at different points along the way. And
sure do. And so there's just certain specific ways to shift gears, and our system shows them exactly what they need to shift at those times to keep growing. And then right around 100 people, you're hitting the 10 to 20 million, depending on your model and stuff. That area has got another shift. So we're going to help them in those areas. Our whole thing is we'll take that $1 million business and help them get well above 10 million in a way that they love it, that it serves their purpose. It helps them live the life they want to live, and it frees their team up to do more and more instead of, holding them back.
I can tell you from personal experience, the good thing about having some sort of program in play. So as a business owner, I myself, I've hit plateaus and flat points where like you get stuck. And why am I stuck?
Yeah.
If you know what's coming, you're better able to adapt, shift in the next gear.
That's right.
Without going, oh, now what? I can't find third gear.
Yeah. Otherwise, we get to that part, we get so stuck. We spend almost all of our cash reserves trying to break through that dumb ceiling. Then we get in a bind. And then our teams start leaving us because we can't really compete in the way we want to, and we're feeling agitated. And the stuck starts to feel like a downturn, not just a stuck. And so as soon as you can be aware of that stuck, shift gears and move while you still have the resources, the better.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what we do. We do that well. We've got our own system. It's got a management system, kind of like an EOS. EOS just takes from all the greats. We've got one that does the same. And then we have this leadership system and helping people to think and act like business owners, be strategic and not just operative. So
that's good. Well, to all the CEOs out there and executives, if you don't have a plan to lead your team, find one, whether it's David's or someone else's. That I think it's important to get it right and not be trying to find that next gear haphazardly.
Climbing the hill, it's not time to miss the gears. Right? Anyway, you could just go to growwithelite.com. We help people grow. So growwithelite.com, and we're glad to help anyone along that path.
Hey, David, thanks again for your time today. Appreciate learning more about your experiences and what you're doing.
Thanks.
Take care.
Really enjoyed the time with you.
Hey, thanks. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Fountain of Vitality podcast. Head to fountainofvitality.com for more episodes, insights, and resources. Remember, your health is yours to own. Take charge, focus on what you can control, and keep exploring what works for you. Always be your best self, lift others, and trust the compass of wisdom. Until next time, stay vibrant and take care.